Hi everyone. So this is going to be the solution for Geeks problem of the day. And more than a solution, it is going to be a screencast as I discussed in my community post and yesterday's videos as well. I've decided I will be posting screencast type of videos. I'll try to do it, and it has two major advantages. The first one being I will have to spend less time editing and doing all the other stuff. And moreover, you will also get an idea to how I think about the problem. Screencast basically means I have not solved this problem before. I'll be solving it live just now and then recording a small solution after it. Right. So I hope this goes well. I haven't read the problem yet, and these kind of videos will be more raw in format. That means you will be able to get a little more idea about my thought process, and it will not be edited, so it will be just plain me speaking and reading the problem. So let's just hope this series goes well. And today is the first problem, easy problem. So it says that the post maker wants to write a program to answer queries regarding letter collection in the city. Okay, so we have an n into m matrix and we have q queries. So if one ij is the query, we have to sum all the letters which are at a hop distance of 1 from the cell. Okay, and if the value is 2, so we have to sum 2 distance, right? So 0 1, so if the queries include 0, that means they have considered 0 based indexing. So what is in one hop distance it can go to, okay, so I believe diagonal is also allowed. Okay, so let's say this is 0 1, so this is 2 1. Okay, right. So what they're basically doing is from this particular cell it is going to this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. And for 2 hop distance, this 9 is included, I believe this one is included, and 3 is included from here, and then 4 is included. It can be this 4. 8 is included. 8 is this one. And okay, I don't see why 1 is not included twice. Do we have to calculate the unique colony? Because you see that there is a 2 here, and at 2 distance this will be 1. Again at 2 distance 1 2, this 1 can be here. So okay, so they are not asking for unique values because we have two 4s here. The index is 0 1. This must be 0 row and first column, this one. So there are two 4s. Let me just read it again. To sum all the letters which are at distance 1 hop distance from the cell ij, 2 hop distance from the cell ij. Hmm. I don't this is an easy problem, but I'm trying to understand the sample test case. 9844. There is only a single 9 here. 8 must be this one. There are two 4s. Okay, sir. Right. So one 4 is here and one 4 is here in this direction. Okay, now I believe I got it. So basically, what they're trying to say is no, it's still different because one is here and one is here. But you cannot go back, or you cannot go diagonal. If you are going in this direction, you cannot go here. If you go in this direction, you cannot go here. Okay. I believe I got it. From what I have understood till now, if you are calculating all the elements which are at a distance 2, you cannot include those elements which were at a distance 1, right? So, for example, this one was at a distance 1 from this particular 2. So, you can directly go to it, but you can also go to it in 2 steps. So, basically from here you go from 2 to 6 and then from 6 to 1, but that will not be counted in 2 distance. Only those cells which can be reached in exactly 2 distance will be counted, and not the ones which can be reached in a smaller distance. That sounds fair. So there is one thing that we'll need definitely. Let me just copy it from my template. I'll show you what it is. So it is actually this direction array. So I've discussed this thing multiple times. What is it and how does it work? So you see that I can just go to the up direction. I have to subtract this x coordinate by 1 or x axis by 1 and y axis remains same, right? So similarly this has been done for all directions. When I use it, you will see how it works. And I have this n comma m, so I have to process q queries, right? Let me just go through all the queries initially. And for the ith query, so the current x is going to be queries of I0, and cy is going to be queries of I1. So let's just see how many queries will be there. So there are 10 raised to the power 5 queries, and this is cube in cubic factor. Okay. So let's just see. Can we do a small BFS inside it? So vector int distance n comma vector int m in 1e9, and I'll just try to start a DFS from here. Cx cy is equals to 0, right? Now, but the thing is, okay, let's just try it anyway. So let's just say Cx cy is equals to 0, and so what I'm essentially trying to do is, if I have a node here or a cell here, I'm trying to visit all of its neighbors, right? So all of these will be at distance 1, right? Once I do this, it is going to visit the nodes which are at distance 2, let's say this one, but when it checks that there is a node here, it is already at distance 0, so it is not going to visit it. Similarly, this node cannot visit this one, or this particular node cannot visit this one. So this way I'll be able to explore the new nodes only. Right. So instead of maintaining this distance array, can we maintain some kind of visited set where int comma int visited, and so visited dot insert cx cy. So it should actually be 1, this should be 2, because the first part will be containing the which type of query it is, right? Now what I'll try to do is, for I is less than 8, so it's a directions, I plus plus int x1 is equals to cx plus dx of I. So I cannot take I here, let's just take d1, and this is also d1, this is also d1, this is going to be d1 as well. So int y1 is equals to cy plus my dy plus my d1, right? So I have got the first coordinates. Let me also create an answer variable. Int answer is equal to 0. So let me just change this because I'll need an answer vector. So vector int answer of size q, right? So now if I have x1 and y1, if mod equals to 0, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add this if not visited dot count x1 comma y1. Although I don't think I would need this here, I would need it in the second iteration, so let's just avoid it here. So sum plus is equals to matrix of x1 y1, right? So this is what I'll do, and otherwise what I'm going to do is else visited dot insert x1 comma y1, or rather I should put them in a queue, and because let's see. So what I'm saying is, if I have a node like this, right, and let's say, so this might visit some nodes, this one, this one, this one, this one, right? Yeah. So what I'm essentially saying, this node, this the initial 0th node, can visit this particular node in one distance. But if I start a DFS kind of a thing, for example, if I visited this node and from here I visited this node, this is not a valid solution because this node cannot be visited, right? So while marking it as visited, I just have to push it in some kind of a queue, so I can just keep track of it and visit all the distances later on. Let me just also create a queue here, ue pair in comma int q, right? So once I have done this, so while q is not empty, for all the nodes inside it, I'm going to do the same thing for int. Let's say d1 is equal to 0, d1 is less than 8, d1 plus plus. So the thing is, calculating at distance 1 is not difficult, but calculating at distance 2 is difficult, right? So I'm just going to calculate x1 is equals to cx plus, not cx, but actually, so let me just create x here, q dot front dot first, and ty is equals to q dot front dot second, and q dot pop, x1 is equals to x plus my dx of d1, and y1 is equals to y plus my dy of d1, right? So I've got my coordinates. If so, I'm going to do this only if mode is equals to if mode, right? So if mode is 1, I'm going to execute this part, and let's just say this is like this. So I have to check if it is not visited, right? So if not visited dot count x1 comma y1. So if it is like this, I'm going to add some plus is equals to matrix of x1 y1. I believe this is correct now, and answer of I is equals to sum. Also there is one more thing that we need to take care of, and that is the valid function. We need to check whether these positions are valid or not. So let me just create it inside only. I'll create it here. Function. It is going to return a boolean. It is going to receive two integers, and it is called valid. So it is going to receive the coordinates x and y, and return type will be boolean. So if x is less than 0, or x is greater than equals to n, or y is less than 0, or y is greater than equals to m, I'm just going to return 0 because it will be out of bounds, otherwise I'm going to return 1. So here also, if not valid x1 comma y1, I'm just going to continue, right? So the spelling mistake, continue, cool. Now here also I would do the same thing. I'll just come here. If not valid x1 comma y1, I'm just going to continue from this loop. Sounds fair enough? Yeah. So let me quickly just check what I wrote. So I have created an answer of size q, answer vector. I'm finding the current indexes. I'm finding the mode which we want to calculate. I've maintained some visited as well as the q itself. So sum is initially 0. I've created a valid function. So this is when mode is equals to 0. Okay, so mode will not be 0 or 1, it will be 1 or 2, right? So I have to change it. Mode is equals to 2. If mode is equals to 1, I just submit it. Otherwise, I just push it in the visited and push it in the queue. While queue is not empty, I'm finding all the indexes and going one more distance from there. Now, if this is not visited, it is valid. I'm going to submit, and otherwise I don't do anything. So let me just compile this and see what happens. Let's just hope this works because it's like a little bit of implementation. Okay, so I have written y2 somewhere. It is here. Okay, it might be like I have made the implementation a little bit complex. So what is wrong here? Initialization of arbitrary. It must be something with a set, I believe. Where is my set? Okay, so I've created a set, pair of integers from integers visited. So I don't know what is wrong with it. Okay. So there is something wrong with this part, I believe. If I just remove this, let's see what happens. Obviously, the answer will be wrong, but we'll get to see some differences if it is because of this. It's still like this only. Why am I getting this compilation error? That means it is not because of this. It is neither because of this. Let me just quickly comment all of this. Just try to run this part once. And let's just see what happens here. Still getting compilation error. That's strange. If I just now compile, okay, so we've got segmentation fault. Is it because of this? We just have to check for each line and see what is the issue. Where is the issue? We're still getting segmentation fault. Interesting. Okay, so I got the issue. I haven't returned the answer vector only. So that there might be a reason. Okay, so this part works now. Let me compile it here first. Then we'll uncomment this part. So we're getting some errors. Okay, so I got the issue. So it must be enclosed in these buckets because they are up here, right? So now I believe it is fine. So that is the problem when you're writing a little bit long code. You don't know where you might have done something wrong. So we're getting 22 fine, but we're getting 55 wrong. Right. So that is what I was talking about. You have to be very careful in doing this correctly. So obviously, if not visited dot count. Okay, so can I also insert it here? Okay, no, I cannot insert it before I check it whether it is visited or not. If it is not visited, I'm just going to visit it and I'm also going to insert it x1 y1, right? So that I know that it is visited. Okay, so this works now. I'll tell you the approach. What am I trying to do? So I don't want to check this test case. Let's just submit this and hope this works. Okay, so we have got time limit exceeded. That's not what we wanted. What if I take unordered set? Is it going to help us? Unordered set. Let me just compile it first. Okay, so that does not work that way. Or maybe unordered map. So it is going to be like this, and visited will be same. So visited of x1 y1. I'm just testing it out. I don't know whether it will work or not. Visited of x1 y1 equals to 1. Dot cy is equals to 1. I changed it everywhere. Okay, so yeah, it does not has a default hash, so we cannot use this. I just have to remove this all of this. That means we can definitely not use a set here. You have to use some other method to store whether it is visited or not. The problem is I would have used a double dimensional array or some visited array, but after visiting, you'll also have to mark them as unvisited for the next query, right? Otherwise, all of it will be a mess. There will be multiple queries for the same problem, and you will have to mark them as unvisited. Okay, so the reason why we have to store a visited vector is that, for example, if I go from this node to this node, now this node can try to go back to this node, which is not what we want when the value of distance is equal to 2, right? And we are finding 2 hop distance. So either I'm missing something very simple about this question, or this is some implementation game. We are not allowed to use this visited, otherwise I'm getting a TLE. So it was on some of the last test cases, I believe. 999. This should not be the case. It should be able to pass because this logarithmic factor is not very huge here. So let's just check if my recording is working. Yeah, recording is working fine. Okay, So I'll need some other way to store that it is visited. So if I'm using a visited vector itself, what will happen? Where do I mark them unvisited? I need some place to mark them unvisited. Let's just try this once. It's just better than sitting empty. So vector vector bool. I'm going to create a visited vector for all the queries, and this will be of size m comma 0, right? Now instead of having this, I'm going to mark visited of cx cy as 1. Now I'm also going to have a vector of pair of integers 1 and 2. So these will be the number of, these will all be the nodes at distance 1, these will be all nodes at distance 2. So now what I do, instead of doing this here, I'll just mark visited of x1 y1 as 1 and 1 dot m place back. That means this node was at distance 1. So I'm just going to push it in 1. Now instead of doing this while, I'm just going to do for auto coordinate in 1, right? So what I essentially have to do is, so co dot first and coordinate dot second, right? Now when I am checking visited here, if not visited and x1 y1, let's just yeah, so I'll mark it as visited. So this will be visited x1 y1, and I'll also have to store it somewhere 2 dot place back x1 y1. So the reason why I have to store it is so that I can mark it as unvisited later on. Sum plus is equals to some value. I marked it as visited and I'm placing back. Yeah. So for auto coordinate in 1, so I'll mark coordinate dot first, coordinate dot second as unvisited. For coordinate in second, okay, so this is 2 actually, 2. I'll mark visited of coordinate dot first, coordinate dot second as 0, and I'll mark visited of, what was it, cx and cy, right? So cx cy is equals to 0. So for all the elements which I marked them as visited, I have marked them as unvisited again. This is what I wanted to do essentially, right? So let me check this and let's just hope this works now. So for compilation, yep, the answer is correct. Let's just hope it passes all. Okay, so we have got the correct answer. This was a lot of work actually, and we made one wrong attempt. So I'll tell you what, it should have passed because this is centers part 3, and basically these nodes which you are visiting later on, right, these are not very huge nodes. This will be just outwards direction. I still highly recommend you to read this tutorial. This was just my way of solving it, and I believe I made it a little complex, but still let me just explain you what I try to do. For example, if this is a node and you go here, these will be all the nodes which are at distance 1, right? So whenever the query is of type 1, you just give the sum of all of these nodes. So this is not an issue, right? But if you have to go to a distance of 2, then comes the real issue. So in that particular case, what will happen, for example, from this particular node, again you will, if you want to hop a distance 1, so you can go to either here, you can go to here, you can go to here upwards, but you can also go to this particular node which was already at distance 1, or you can also go back to this node which is already at distance 0, right? But you don't want them to include in your answer, so you will have to find out some way to avoid them, right? So that is why I wanted to use a visited array, right? Our set method did not work, it gave us TLE. Normally it would work, but it did not work here. So what I did was, instead of storing it in a set, I used a double dimensional vector. Now the issue with this vector is, I had this idea before also, but the issue with it is that you will have to mark all of the nodes unvisited later on, otherwise it will have impact on other queries, right? So what I essentially do is, I just take all the elements which are at a distance 1, right? And I take all the elements. So for example, I have taken these elements here, right? I have pushed them into a vector called 1. So these will all be all the coordinates which are at a distance 1. If the mode is equals to 1, I just directly take their sum, otherwise I mark them as visited and I push it back into the 1 vector. Now what I do, if the mode is equals to 2, I am just going to traverse through all the elements which were in the 1 vector, right? And I do the same process from this 1 distance. Again, if I go 1 distance, the total distance will be 2, right? So now if this new coordinate is valid and it has not been visited already, that means it will be a fresh node and it is exactly a distance 2. I'm going to add it in my sum and I'm just going to mark it as visited, and again I'm just going to push back into my 2 vector. So at the end, I'll have to make sure of one thing, that I make both of these coordinates, all of the coordinates that were present in both of the vectors as not visited, and obviously the starting coordinate as well. So this was all about this video. I know that this video is a little bit long, and it says it is an easy problem, but my implementation was a bit long. So you can also have a look at this particular editorial, that you can have a better idea of it. So that was it for today. I hope that you guys were able to understand the solution. If you did, then consider dropping a like on this video, and obviously you can subscribe. And that's it for this video. Let's hope that we continue the series. See you on the next one. Take care, stay safe, bye bye.